Yo, what's going on, guys? Ryan Hodge with FantasyLabs.com here, and week two is officially in the books. Well, the week two main slate is. We still got some Monday Night Football on tonight, some showdowns to play, some props to bet, but I want to spend some time going over my thought process, the contest that I entered, the lineups that I built, and just kind of a general review of the week two slate. I think it's important to spend time reviewing your process, studying, what the pros played, maybe seeing if there's a leak in your building process in your roster construction that you need to focus on. So with that being said, let's take a look at some of the contests that I played in the week two slate. Let's go to my history here and we'll sort by one because that's always fun. We'll definitely take a look at a couple losers too. I was in for 25 and change and out for 2,700 and change. I literally booked like the tiniest of wins, and that was mostly due to this um, late slate that I ended up playing. So I think a good place to start is underneath the My Lineups page here on Fantasy Labs and just take a look at my exposures. And this is going to give you a good overview of who I was exposed to the most, and I'll kind of walk through my thought process on them. So, obviously, heavily exposed to Najee Harris. I just thought he was in a really good spot. Matchup was good, usage was great, touchdown equity was good, implied team total was good. Everything was good for Najee there. And running back is a position that even in large field tournaments, I have no problem being with the field or above the field on the chalk, whatever it might be at the running back position. And you'll see here too, like I wrote him up, 100% of his team snaps, 17 touches, 30 routes, was involved a little bit in the passing game. We saw that more this week. And he was the number one rated running back in my Fantasy Labs model too. So was a guy who I was just very, very high on coming into the week. Probably about 40 minutes before lock, I looked at that and I just said, yeah, that's a lot of money on one running back. And I still just decided to take a stance. And I sucked out. Anyone who played Najee sucked out. He caught more passes right at the end of the game and definitely caught that pass and ran one in late. So Noah Fant was another guy that I just thought was a phenomenal pivot off of Tyler Higbee. Talked about that in my concise conviction as well. He was a guy who I knew I would be heavily exposed to. Looking back, and maybe this is hindsight. I don't think it's hindsight. I think it's a mistake on my end of just not looking at maybe alternative pass catchers to be at least a little bit exposed to in that game, right? So I think with Jerry Jeudy not playing snaps and taking a look at a guy like Cortland Sutton or Noah Fant, those were some of the reasons once I bumped up Noah Fant's market share of targets and the amount of opportunities that he would be seeing, he just really started to pop for me in projections in my model player ratings. But I I think because I went back and I looked at the projections and stuff like that, and I probably should have had a little bit more Cortland Sutton um, as in spots where I didn't have Fant. I think I maybe should have had Cortland Sutton because I really did like Teddy B in the Denver side of that game too. So my two favorite low owned stacks were low owned, overlooked, however you want to say it. Look, they weren't going to garner, and I'm not talking about like these insane dart throws like playing Andy Dalton, right? I'm just talking about overlooked, lower owned game stacks that are still in really, really good spots. You'll never see me playing these dumb game stacks like I can't even like Houston. Like you'll never see me playing Tyrod Taylor and Brandon Cooks. I just don't think there's a reason to in my contest selection in the field size that I'm playing. When Tyrod Taylor wins something in that game, it won't be me, right? Like I'm not going to have a winning Tyrod Taylor lineup. It just won't work that way, especially on a slate like this, and that's fine. So for me, my overlooked game stacks were Brady or the Tampa Bay game stack and the Seattle game stack. And I think both of those were fine. Obviously, got a great run out with Brady and his pass catchers. The Kyler stuff to me was interesting. I talked about them as Kyler, DeAndre Hopkins, and Justin Jefferson have the highest combined ceiling projection for a three-man stack. And so they projected really high for me from a ceiling stack for a three-man. And so that started to get me onto them. I just had to make sure, like, look, this if this is one of the highest ceiling projections, I need to be on them a little bit, but it wasn't very much. I ended up having just a little over $300 worth of entries on them on 2,500 total. Two lineups here, both of them with Najee and both of them with Elliott, pivoting off of the the Dallas pass catching chalk. That was something that I wanted to do too. You can even see here using Cedric Wilson instead of Cooper or CD Lamb. I was looking to pivot away from the chalk a little bit there. This was a big game stack that I ended up doing, and this is probably in a 370 person field. One of the power sweeps that is 370 person. I think there's 15K up top to it. So I knew I wanted a big game stack. Went with Tyler Conklin and Justin Jefferson. Neither of them obviously worked out on that side of the ball. But a big, massive game stack there. That was probably one of the lineups that I was a little bit more interested in as I was building it, thought it was in a better spot. So let's take a look at some of those lineups that I here. Well, look, this was just a late slate. This helped me claw back. This one was a Derrick Henry team. I'm 99% sure. Yeah, D Henry there. Couldn't get much out of Herbert. Used Fournette to leverage some of the Tampa passing game. Keep in mind it's condensed late afternoon slate, so it has like the ownership implications here in roster construction have nothing to do with the main slate. Um, but if we take a look at one of my main slate lineups, oops, under history here, let's go take a, what was this? That was another afternoon. There's some play action stuff. Let's do it by top prize. I can't sort by top prize, but I can sort by one. That doesn't make any sense, DraftKings. Okay, so here's a 3 max power sweep with 15K to first. That's probably one of my Kyler lineups. Here's the big power sweep. Let's do this one. This is the big power sweep with 6,000 plus people in it. So if we take a look at the contest details here, um, this had 5,200 people in it with 150K to first, 3 entries. Rake is fine on these. Contest structure is fine, but I do like these as contests. So if you take a look at my lineups here, well, actually, let's just go see what won this. I bet you it was probably some dumb Tyrod. Nope. Okay, Matt Ryan and a Derrick Henry. All right, so that makes me feel better. Tyrod didn't win this. Matt Ryan, Calvin Ridley, and did he bring it back with Tampa Bay? He did with Fournette, and then a Kyle Pitts onslaught too here. So yeah, look at that. Two cast catchers for Matt Ryan, and used Derrick Henry in that, or excuse me, Leonard Fournette in that same game to leverage off of some of those Tampa Bay wide receivers. I actually think Fournette probably ran a little cold here. They had multiple like 1 and 2 yard line possessions in that game, and Tom Brady threw the ball, I think, like 4 out of the 6 times. I don't remember exactly what it was, but on those 1 and 2 yard line possessions, typically Fournette's going to find the box. I think more times than not, out of six attempts from Brady coming from the 1 and the 2 yard line, I think is kind of insane there. Used Cole Beasley here in a game that we always know Buffalo is going to be throwing. Emmanuel Sanders was actually my preferred play for $600 cheaper. He's got a good opponent plus minus. Obviously, same thing for Cole Beasley there. Great implied team total. Ran a ton of routes and had a lot of air yards on his 8 targets in week 1. So I preferred Emmanuel Sanders there. Both of them kind of fell flat here. I think each scoring like 6 and 7 points. Cooper Kupp and Derrick Henry really brought it home for him with the Patriots defense. So let's take a look at mine. We'll go worst to best. I think that this was a lineup that I saw coming in, and let me take a look here. What did I do? Herbert, CD, and Mike Williams. So a mini Dallas stack with, yeah. So honestly, I think once I probably should have made swaps, and I don't even think I did. I thought that I was like, this lineup is so beyond dead with Damian Harris, David Montgomery, and the Finns and Visca. I got over. For me, when I swap, I usually do it all within like the last 15 minutes of the early slate leading right into late slate because I want to know as close to as possible is what I need to do. So sometimes I'm making swaps with 90 seconds left. And so a lot of times when I see a lineup like this over all the lineups that I have, this is dead. And I move on. I don't put a ton of thought into it. Let's see if there are any swaps on this second lineup here. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that I swapped onto Fournette here. I'm 99% sure that I swapped onto Fournette here in this lineup, and I might have even swapped into a full Russell stack into DK off of a Tampa wide receiver. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that that's what I did here. Uh, you know, trying to make up some of this Cole Kmet and Emmanuel Sanders. So, and then this lineup actually wasn't. This was all early. So this lineup I didn't make any swaps on. I thought that Chris Godwin would be a little bit lower owned than Mike Evans, so I went with Chris Godwin here. And I think that ended up working out from an ownership standpoint, but did not work out from a fantasy production standpoint. So yeah, look, this was a lineup where I knew the field and myself were going to be very exposed to these late slates, and I just wanted some contrarian lineups that weren't heavily exposed to the afternoon slate in case some of them or all of them turned out to be a little dust. And I think I ran maybe a little bad here. Obviously ran good with Cup and Pittman, but the Stafford not quite getting there, probably looking closer to 25, 26 points out of Stafford. We got a late CMC tutty here. Damian Harris, I think, played less snaps than James White, and James White was getting goal line touchdowns. So I think I ran a little cold there. And other than that, though, I don't really have a whole lot to say about this lineup. I think there's great correlation throughout this entire lineup. And I think, I played a lot of the guys who I talked about in my concise conviction with Fant and Cooper Kupp and Godwin, Daryl Henderson, Najee Harris. So I thought this lineup was fine. Let's take a look at some of the professionals here in our contest dashboard. So let's go take a look at a couple of these guys who I've favorited. Let's just take a look at it looks like let's take a look at this Millie Maker here. Did RB88 win it? So Mario B88 shipped it with an Edmonds, Lockett, Derrick Henry, Russell Wilson stack, and he brought it back with Derrick Henry. Yeah, look at the ownership that he's got here. That's pretty nuts. Let's see what the pros did. Oops. Oh, that's weird. My favorites aren't saved. All right. Take a look at Wilson. 15 rosters in this. Did not get there. Hate to see it. A lot of Kyler. Kirk. Yeah, so he was pretty heavily exposed. I mean, he's going to be probably exposed to a lot of these late games. Tom Brady. So big onslaught there with Kyler. Brady with Atlanta and Tampa Bay. Kyle Pitts, Mike Evans. Javonte Williams. I thought Javonte Williams was actually a sharp play this week if you're looking to get different. It's like he leveraged that Dallas game too. I wonder if he fully faded. Nope, there's one Herbert game and one Dak. So, I mean, he took a pretty hard stance on that Dallas Chargers game too. It's always hard to tell with so many late swaps happening, but he definitely took a stance fading that Dallas and Chargers game. And that was something that I did as well. I really was way under the field with that Dallas and Herbert game, and I was under the field even before swapping. I had maybe two lineups out of the 15 hand built single entry stuff that I do. I was really just I thought Kyler and Russ and Tom Brady all had phenomenal ceilings and were all going to come in much lower owned. So why wouldn't I take this standpoint of just guys who have similar ranges of outcomes in extremely good game environments at half the ownership at like almost every position. So that was kind of my thought process going into it. Did I run good because that game didn't have a punt until like the third quarter and still somehow the game came in under the implied or the total? Probably. But I just it's all about ownership for me, so I'll take it when it happens. Let's see, JK here. 8 rosters, 8 unique, and not a good day either. Russ, Tannehill, so he's got some onslaughts here. Herbert, Josh Allen, Ryan. I thought Josh Allen was another sneaky good play. My only concern there was that Miami just wouldn't be able to keep pace, and that kind of did end up playing out into a total nut. Joe Burrow, Matt Ryan, Teddy Bridgewater. Wow, so not he went a lot of different quarterbacks, really exposed himself to a lot of different environments, and just one Herbert lineup. Let's take a look at Two Gun here. There's another really good high stakes player, really focuses on some of these high entries. Matt Ryan, Tom Brady. So let's see, his lineup for 50K here was Russ. Yeah, a lot of these Russ lineups got there. And what's insane too, Chris, if you played Chris Carson, you ran hot. For them to get turnovers on like the 1 and 5 yard line and Chris Carson to run both of them in, I mean, I think more often than not, Russell and DK have a much better game if we play this one out again with how quick this game ran. So I think honestly probably ran a little bit of little cold here, even with some of these environments. A 0 from his tight end and still wins 50K. I mean, that just goes to show in these smaller field ones. It's really why I prefer small field. You do not have to be perfect at all. Like, let's take a look at the Millie where there's 250,000 other people. I think 265,944 other entrants. You have to be so perfect in order to win something like this. I mean, you had to be so perfect. What is this? This is not right. This is kind of strange. I'm gonna go back. Let's take a look at the Wildcat. Here's a Tyrod Taylor winning lineup. Look at that. Oh my gosh. Tyler Lockett. I mean, he had all these high scores. That's out of control. Elijah Mitchell still getting it done with Elijah Mitchell in here. But look at, he had 1, 2, 3 players all at 35 or better. I mean, that's just insane. A 7% Rob Gronkowski. So like playing in some of these smaller field contests like the Spy, like some of the uh oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Like the single entry red zone stuff. I mean, it's like here's the double spy. It's a $200 entry. Let's see. Did I cash in this? I did. A little bit of a min cash here. Not even. Woof. Man, why was I in this contest? What a gross. Okay, actually, I guess it's very flat up top. That's probably why I saw it. And it's $277. Okay. So let's take a look. I'm in cashed here with Steelers and a Sanders. and then pretty straightforward everywhere else. Oh, look at that. I ran hot with Chris Carson. And that's probably me just hedging, in all honesty, or a late swap. I don't remember. I probably wouldn't have late swapped onto a guy who I thought was going to be chalk. So that was probably there to begin with, knowing that I had some okay outcomes from the early game with Fant and Higgins and a lot going. I don't think I moved off of this lineup at all now that I'm looking at it. So who did he win with? A Teddy B stack, Cup, Sutton, Teddy B, Sutton, and did he bring it back with anyone from Jacksonville? Did he have Marvin? He did not. Played Lamb, Zach Pascal. I thought was a fine play again after the news in Indy with Paris Campbell, and then Cooper Cup. Once again, a guy who I loved too. Was pretty heavily exposed to him. A guy that I wrote up. I just thought it was a very, very good spot for him. I wonder if we'll see a little bit of buy low opportunity on Robert Woods coming forward, though. I think he still ran a lot of routes and was definitely had good usage in that offense. So if he's going to get suppressed, and if his ownership and salary gets suppressed and Cooper Cups starts to go in the opposite direction, I definitely think Robert Woods will be a good play going forward. So yeah, I mean that's a little bit of my process. Once again, pretty straightforward in regards to contest selection. You'll always see me in smaller field contest with a little bit of a higher buy-in. Definitely nothing too high like these 4K ones. I think my contest selection will always be slate dependent too. If I feel like there's a little bit bigger of an edge on a slate, I will probably up my volume and jump into the game changer. I jump into that every once in a while where it's $1,500. And if I think that there's just if I think the field is just drastically missing something, I'm okay to press. I don't mind trying to take a little bit of a stance on where I think that there's going to be an edge because the field is doing something that I don't think they should be doing. That definitely wasn't this slate by any means. Uh, I think a lot of people like this slate with all those late games going and all the swap options that you had, but you probably should have been building your lineups the right way to begin with. I get that there were more options to swap, so there was a lot more ways to get different based off of the early slate. But if you were playing chalk in the early slate, you shouldn't have had chalk in the afternoon slate to begin with. And if you were playing chalk in the afternoon slate, you shouldn't have chalk in the early slate. It was just very straightforward to me. So I understand all the talk with swaps, but I don't. I think it was maybe a little bit overstated. So yeah, guys, that's week 2 in review. Drop some comments down below in regards to where you think you have leaks that you need to plug in your game, whether it's contest selection or you're not stacking enough, or you think that there might be an edge in maybe giving up a point or two of median projection on one or two players for some ownership, which is something that I do a lot. I think that's always good to do. Or should we just be jamming Kyler and Tom Brady every week and we figure out the rest, right? So with that, don't forget to like and subscribe and run good in week 3. Peace.